Okay, I believe you should be able to hear me now. Anyway, okay, so today we're going to be fixing this iPad Air 2, and taking the screen from this iPad Air 2 to use with this iPad Air 2 here. So the issue with this iPad Air 2 is that the battery and display were bad, and this iPad Air 2 has a good display, but the logic board is not good. So we're just going to swap the display from this one onto this one now, as the battery's already done. It's got a nice new battery in it. And yeah, that's the goal of today's stream. So there's a heat pad over here, and I'm trying something new. This is an S22 Ultra, and my iPhone's down here because the Stream Deck app is free on iPhone but costs money on Android. So I want to know which camera is better, this one or the iPhone camera I used last week. So you can see the wider shot here looks like this, and there's now also a more zoomed in shot that I can switch to. So without further ado, let us get to the cooking of the iPad. As you can see, this is heating up nicely, and the iPad will be cooked very shortly. And while that's happening, I will go to the iFixit guide and see what the best way to open it is. Western Australian history, hello, he says iPhone was way better. Um, okay, that is a good thing to know. I will probably switch them out for next week's stream. Yeah. So, um, so this anti-clamp, I actually do have one of these coming, which will be very exciting next week. And like I said, I'll be very excited to show you this heat pad because these are super fun. But the anti-clamp, I have one of them coming for next week's stream, and oh, they're fun to use. So, let's just remove this and get a suction cup ready. Now the temperature is, you can see here what the temperature's on. You just gotta wait until it gets to around 80-ish, and then it'll be ready. Although the wide angle is nice. Yeah, so, about that, I didn't actually know that there would need to be two angles, a more zoomed in and a more zoomed out angle. So I created just the one, and then I had to increase it on the stream live. So now that I know that, I'll be able to have both angles and have the better iPhone quality for next week's stream. So that's something good to know. Thank you for letting me know that. How's the cooking going? The cooking is nearly done. You can see here it is 71 degrees Celsius. So once it gets to 80, we should be able to just open it up using this. These are less fun than the anti-clamps, by the way. The anti-clamps are extremely enjoyable. Okay, and honestly, 76 is hot enough because I already slightly removed some of the adhesive from it before. Oh yeah, that's toasty. Now you got to be very careful when dealing with these because you can hurt yourself quite easily. Now that's coming right up off of the screen. So I'm just going to use a pick like iFixit says. Just remove all the adhesive. Like I said, I already removed a lot of the adhesive from this screen, so it should be pretty easy. I mean, it's just peeling up, like, without any effort at all, which is honestly crazy. Normally these take at least a bit of effort to do. Now this is the part that I have to be careful with. So yeah, I did that. These iFixit instructions. I should really scroll more. Okay. I already got the adhesive out. So, okay, you got to open it from the top, which is strange. Now, with the iPads, it's actually extremely important that you disconnect the battery before anything because they short out very easily. That is something that would be good to know if you're ever doing an iPad repair. Make sure that you remove the battery connection first. It will short out. The chances are quite high. So, to remove the battery connection, I'll flip it this way so you can sort of see better. You just got to put the battery disconnector, which is in the... Oh, I'll turn off the heat pad. The battery disconnector in this box here. This battery disconnector will allow me to disconnect the battery because, well, that's what it does. But I first have to unscrew the battery cover. Is this for a client or to sell as refurbished? This iPad here is for a client who needed an iPad Air 2 battery and display replacement. So that I now realize that that is in fact a Phillips screw. So the most basic screwdriver, you don't actually need that many screwdrivers for the iPads, unlike the iPhones where you need special screwdrivers, which is surprising. But iPads are still way more annoying to fix than iPhones. Ooh, yikes. I do not want to pull on this or damage it. So I just have to be very careful at this point with the screwdriver. And of course, I'm going to take advantage of the parts tray that came in the iFixit toolkit. I'm not sponsored by any company. However, the iFixit tools are extremely, extremely useful for any sort of repair work. They make life so much easier. So, with this battery disconnector, I just have to slide that in. I might have to flip it around just to make it a bit easier. Gotta get it under that antenna line. Well, not antenna line. Actually, is that an antenna line? That's the cable for something. Gotta make sure not to hit the cable, but to get under the battery connector. This is extremely delicate. That's why I'm doing it at this angle. I wish I could show you, but I really don't want to damage the iPad. We nearly got it. Nearly got it. Oh, oh, no, not yet. Okay. Let's see what their instructions say. Yeah, I'm doing the right thing. It's just a matter of getting it under. It's a bit annoying. And the heat in my room is too high, so I'm gonna just take this jacket off. Turns out having a whole lot of heating and a jacket and a heat pad is not a good combination. That's why you have jackets, you can remove them. Ooh, I still don't have it. This one is extremely difficult. Not gonna lie. Does iFixit have any other advice for me? Except... Nope. Okay, that's disconnected now, except it keeps coming out. Wow. Okay. I'm not sure who... I'm surprised that this connector actually exists. It is extremely difficult to work on. I mean, I guess that's the point of the whole anti-right to repair thing. But normally the anti-right to repair stuff is like software features. This is an extremely difficult clip to keep open. However, as long as I hold that in there... Ooh, yeah. So I gotta hold that in there, but then it's gonna stay disconnected, which is what we want. Fortunately, it seems to refuse to stay disconnected. I'm gonna just have to hold it with one hand while I unscrew the rest. So, the next part to remove is these three screws here, which cover the display connector bracket. Once we get this old display off, it'll be a whole lot easier to deal with. Oh, and it reconnected again. This is extremely difficult, surprisingly. iPad repairs are, to be honest, the most painful of all repairs to do. I would much... People say iPhones are difficult, but that's just simply wrong. iPads are much more... Oh, I got it to stay in. iPads are much more difficult than iPhones, to be honest. iPhones are actually quite easy once you have the right tools. You know, you just need like maybe a heat pad, maybe a anti-clamp, and then they're pretty easy to work on after you get that and, well, the proprietary screwdriver. But iPads, they're like, they're just painful, especially because you have to keep the battery isolated with the battery disconnector thing. It's extremely difficult, and this screw is somewhat under the... Yeah. Keeping good track of your screws is important, by the way. Very important job. Okay, so... Now you may be like, Ryan, this iPad has already, is not going to be used again as a logic board. Why do you need to protect it from shorting? Well, if the display shorts, that's also an issue. And I really do not want the display to short because this is the good display. Trying to figure out if there's anything else holding that down or if I can remove it now. I believe I can remove it now. Yep, that's just glue. And here is our new display. Now, one thing to note is that on these, the Touch ID is linked to the device. So this Touch ID is linked to this logic board, and this Touch ID is linked to this logic board here. So we really do have to keep them. I should probably label them. Just while I have. So yeah. Because if you lose track of these, then you're going to have a very bad time. So I'm finished with this iPad now. I can just remove this. I don't really need the battery disconnector in here anymore. I am going to be using this iPad to take screws also because it's right here, and this iPad's just a 4 parts iPad now. So I'm going to take the screws from it, and the screws from this one, the original screws, can just be used later on. So let us head now to the next iFixit step, which is putting this display back on, except, yeah. So to put this display back together, it's actually, well, actually, first thing we have to do is move the Touch ID over. So to move Touch ID over, we're going to need to, okay, it's a lot more difficult to move Touch ID over on the iPad than on the iPhones, but it'll get done. So, so, I'll need the heat pad again to remove the Alt Touch ID from this one. Now remember, this logic board isn't being used anymore, so it's good to do that one first. I will not break it, but rather warm up, if necessary, on the one that is not being used anymore than the one that is still required. So, let us wait for this to heat up. This is an extremely satisfying process, by the way. When you use the heating pad, they are extremely satisfying. As you can see here, like as you saw when I was opening the iPad, it was super easy to remove the display. Yes, it was already partially done, but when you use an eye opener, it's a lot more work to deal with. And when, like, this is the eye opener, right? Um, Essentially, it does a similar thing to the heating pad. Wow, that's a lot of emojis. This is the eye opener. It does a very similar thing to the heating pad in that it can be used to, well, heat up the device. You know, you heat up the eye opener, put it on the device, and then melt the adhesive, then you'll pull it up. But it's a lot more difficult because you have to do each side individually and it doesn't get as hot. So I still like having the eye opener because I use it when I've done 90% of the screen, but there's still one edge that is cooled down. I will then heat up the eye opener while holding up the rest of the display with these, and then use it to just get that last bit of adhesive that otherwise would have hardened and been a pain. So I am extremely happy with having the eye opener, but mainly the heating pad is a lot more useful, realistically. So I'm going to now move the old iPad out of the way. You can tell it's the old one because it has the cellular in it. This is a cellular iPad Air 2. Yeah. Bye bye cellular iPad Air 2. And now we're going to go back to the scene and I will attempt to remove Touch ID, which is always annoying. you have to, I'll grab the tweezers. You have to remove the thing covering. Port. Hello, Ice Shadow Cone. You say, you so good at fixing that. Thank you. iPads are the hardest of repairs, to be honest. I do not like repairing them, but you should come back when hopefully you see another stream when I'm fixing an iPhone. It's a lot more enjoyable. Now I just have to remove this little tape cover. It's extremely delicate, so I don't want to damage it. And now I have access to the ribbon cable, which I'm not sure if you can see at this point. Okay, I will zoom in a bit more because I'll zoom in a bit more because it is difficult to view this specific thing. So, yeah, unfortunately the S22 Ultra, like West Australia history from the last stream said, the iPhone was a lot better than the S22 Ultra in the camera department. But that is okay. I will fix that for next week. What else do I have to remove? Okay. Let's see what else. I'm going to use an iFixit guide on how to fix the how to move the Touch ID because I do not wish to break it. Now, okay. There's also a possibility that here's the home button assembly. It's in the same guide. iFixit was extremely good and put it in the exact same guide. So big props to iFixit for doing that. Massive props to iFixit for making it just so easy. Yeah. Now, top down scene. Okay. So, yeah, the Samsung quality is definitely a lot lower than that of the iPhone from before, but that is okay, I guess, for now. So, let us go straight back to fixing of the iPad. So, the first step is to pry a bracket off. That bracket. And then the next step is to remove the home button tape. Okay, yeah, remove that. Flick that up. So essentially we have to remove part of this, but be very careful not to damage the other part. Yep, disconnect that. Then we just gotta pull this whole thing up. I'm gonna apply a bit more heat to it as well. It is not getting enough heat. Mike Crouch says, hello. Hello, I hope you enjoyed the stream. What are you fixing? I thought Apple devices are hard to fix. This is an iPad Air 2. It's getting a display replacement. iPads are certainly annoying to fix, I would agree. Difficult, sort of. iPhones aren't that hard. iPads are annoying, but not extremely difficult if you know what you're doing and have the right tools. Now, an iPad Air 2 is older, but that doesn't mean the new ones are unfixable. This is just what I'm fixing today. It would be absolutely hilarious if I broke Touch ID though. Now, these tools from iFixit are actually very cool. Now, they have written on them that the tools are designed to break before the device does. So in theory, by using this, you can hopefully not damage things because the tool will break first. Well, that's the goal anyway. Yeah, so the next step according to iFixit would be to peel up under here using a spludger. Okay, I'm definitely going to need more heat for this one. So, back to the heating pad it goes for now. And now let's take this back over here and try once more to remove this. Hopefully it is hot enough this time because heating is by far the most annoying part of these adhesive-based repairs. I do not wish to damage the iPad because Touch ID is actually irreplaceable. If you damage the Touch ID, you will no longer have Touch ID. Now, at the moment, I'm still removing the old one, so it doesn't really matter, but for the sake of doing your repair well, you always want to do it to the best standard possible. I feel like that's a tape cover, though, that I will have to remove first. Yep. These insulating covers, they're useful in the fact that they prevent shorts, but they are frustrating to deal with. Now, how do they get that up? Now, ribbon cables are by far the most delicate kinds of cables because they can break very easily. Um, so I have to be extremely, extremely careful when pulling this up. However, I appear to have gotten it now, which is good. The next step is to add more heat. Ooh, this is the scary part. Ah, Arctic Wolf has sent an emoji. Hello, Arctic Wolf. This is the extremely risky part where you can actually damage the home button, which is the part that you do not want to damage at all. I just realized I still have to remove this annoying bracket. This is very painful. This is a very painful part of the repair. And from earlier, Mike Crouch, who said that it was difficult to repair Apple products, this is where that comes from. These things where you cannot avoid doing these if you want to do the repair properly, and these necessary steps that are very frustrating. So let's apply more heat because it is not hot enough to remove. Now we'll go back to that step where that part of the home button was removed. So, hopefully it is hot enough by now. Let us go back to the iPad and just peel it up. Oh yeah, that. Oop, nearly got it. Nearly there. And that is up. So now I have to remove the home button from the device. I got to be careful at this point. I'm going to apply a lot of heat before doing it. Make sure it's freshly heated up because you want the absolute best chances of success here because you can only do this once, and if it fails, well, no more Touch ID on this iPad ever again. So the stakes at this point are actually higher than the rest of the repair, where the other parts are replaceable. And on iPhones or the iPad Pros, the newer ones, it's the Face ID that is extremely irreplaceable. You damage the Face ID or the earpiece on the iPhone, which is attached to Face ID, then you are not having more Face ID on that device ever again. So, that would be sufficiently hot. Oh, and it just came out in one easy. See, that's why I love the heat pads compared to the eye openers, because things just come out. It's not much work at all. So now I just have to repeat those steps on the old display to regain the Touch ID sensor from in here and attach it to the new display. So for now, we're going to put the new display aside. We're going to put the Touch ID for this iPad with it, so that way it stays together because they are logic board paired. And this is the new iPad. This is the iPad that needs the new display, new battery. It's in here. Mike Crouch says, "Have you ever broken an Apple device before?" Oh, that would be going back a while because I haven't actually. I mean, aside from the current generation Apple products, I haven't actually owned many myself. Um, the most damage I've done was to a non-Apple device where I dropped a Android phone that I had at the time, a Huawei, and that thing was absolutely annihilated. But in terms of Apple devices, when repairing a Mac Mini, I once broke the infrared sensor cable. And I mean, that's replaceable. It's not that difficult to deal with. It's just one cable. But in repairs, that's the most damage I've done. In in daily life, I haven't really cracked any of them or broken any of them. I scratched up an Apple Watch Series 7 extremely badly. That thing was absolutely destroyed by the time I was done with it. Luckily, the Ultra's a lot more durable than the Series 7. Um, and then I sold the Series 7 to get the Ultra. Um, and then that's the most damage I've done, really. The only other damage is like the batteries. I wear them out very quickly because I use the device a lot, essentially. Um, my MacBook is an M1 MacBook Air. When I got it, it had 18 hours of battery life. Now it barely lasts 8. So that's, I mean, it says 8% health, but it's a lot less than that in reality. That's the most damage I've done to an Apple product, just the battery, really. So let's continue cooking this iPad display just so it's nice and toasty. Because the warmer the iPad display is, the better, essentially, in this current use case. Having it be warm is good. Um, then we'll just have to repeat the home button steps again. So I'll scroll back to 38 where they start mentioning the home button assembly. Okay. I believe it would be cooked enough now because it is warm to the touch. So let's act quickly. First things first, remove the tape cover. Or tape covers. That's the first tape cover. Now I'm just gonna very gently disconnect that ribbon cable. Pull this up. Then now I'm going to apply more heat to it because it's starting to cool down and you want to keep a constant supply of heat. So now that the heat is being applied again, I will just wait for a minute, and now that there is now that there is more heat, I will just go back here and do this again. Now we'll use the spludger because that is the safest tool to use here. Just to very gently remove the Touch ID ribbon cable. And now I will remove the Touch ID cover. 2, 3, 4, and that is why it's not coming up. Because the Touch ID cover has the protective piece of tape on it. I remember now. So I just have to very gently remove that. Or I can remove them as one piece, ideally. So I just get that in there. That comes up. Oh yeah. That is perfect. It's all coming up in one piece, which will make my life when reattaching it easier. And now it's going to need more heat on it. So let's toast it some more. And we are nearly done with this repair. It's just Touch ID button into here, this onto this, and then we are testing it and finished. So, this repair is nearly completed. It's just this last crucial step. And then this iPad here will have a new battery and a new display, which is everything it needs to be fully functional. So I'm extremely happy about that. Let's just get back to this repair now. I believe it should have heated up enough now. So let us untoast the iPad and very gently start pulling up the Touch ID cable. This is the most delicate cable ever. It's so annoying to deal with. And then that Touch ID button lifts right out. Perfect. So now, this is the old display. Now we just have to get the new display and put them together. So, here's the new display. The assembly is all in the one piece right now. Thank goodness for that. Make my life a whole lot easier. Just have to line that up so it goes in correctly. Put that in. Woo. That is in place. Then we have to line up the rest of this. Oh no, it's going to glue down. Be very careful to get it in correctly. So, This is the next step, I guess. As you can see, the gasket here is slightly disconnected, which is very frustrating to deal with. You just got to line them up correctly, and it's difficult to do that, but I can do it. That goes there, perfect. Oh, that goes there. Very nice. That plugs into that slot. That connects to that. That connects to that. Then, as long as we glue this back down correctly, that home button will now function when being held in. So I just have to make sure that that home button is glued in properly using a tiny bit of glue, because otherwise it will become loose, and then you do not want your home button falling back into your iPad. That is extremely frustrating when that happens after a repair, and it really won't take much effort on my part to avoid that issue. So let's just add a tiny bit of glue on either side of the bracket. Just a little drop. Nothing major. And we just have to make sure that cable's plugged in correctly. Yep. Then apply pressure on this so it definitely glues down properly, and we should be sorted after that happens. Just have to hold that one down, and then the button should work, which is great. So I'm just going to keep pressure on that for 3 or so minutes. However, that thing seems to be holding itself down pretty well for now. So it appears currently that that is a success so far. Now I'm just going to reapply the protection tape on top of the Touch ID cable connector, just so it's insulated properly. Insulating properly is not always 100% important, but definitely decreases the chance of problems down the road. So I 100% will be putting back as much insulation as possible. That one's already insulated because this Touch ID came out with the insulation, which I like. So the button's working and clicking, and the glue is being pressed down. So I will now just have to wait a bit longer for this to fully glue down. Then it should be ready to go back onto the iPad, which is extremely exciting. Extremely exciting. Now, I also want to note that these here, these little pieces on the side that I'm holding down with the glue are also pressed in on either side of the charging port here. So they line up nicely with that insulating tape, which means that should by nature press the glue down more by itself, which is very useful. Just do that for us. So now we just have to disconnect the battery using the battery disconnector and reapply the display. So first things first, move the glue out the way and the tweezers. You don't want to lose tools because they are annoying to replenish. You have to wait for them to ship. That goes over there with the old display. So the first thing we have to do when reassembling this iPad, actually I'll move my camera. Oop, that is the wrong thing to do. I will move my camera up here so you can see a bit better what's going on. So the most important thing when dealing with these is that you have to separate the battery like we did in the first half of this repair. I'm hoping that this one will be easier to do. Yeah, because there's no display in the way. So the battery is disconnected, as you can see nicely here. Now we just have to reconnect the display like this. I'm not going to be using the adhesive yet because I would like to test it fully first before using the adhesive, and that is not something I will be doing on stream as it may involve accidentally seeing the customer's data, which I do not want to reveal on stream. I just want to see the Apple logo boot up, which hopefully would mean everything is a success. However, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, considering I still need to plug in the display connectors. This is always awkward. I'm going to do this horizontally, it might be easier. These are meant to click in very satisfyingly, but they are not doing it for some reason. These are normally the easiest part of the entire repair. However, for some reason, I am having trouble with them, which is kind of awkward. Oh, gotta definitely keep that disconnected for this next step. Okay, the display is now reconnected. So I'm just going to screw on the back. I'm not going to screw it completely together. Actually, there's no adhesive, so it'll be fine. I'm just going to screw on the battery cover to make sure that everything is securely held in place. And then I'm going to test it. Now this battery, I will have to plug the iPad in because I've not actually tested whether or not it is a charged battery, and it hasn't been calibrated yet. So just for testing purposes, I will use a single screw to hold the display connectors in. Actually, I'll probably have to use more. And the next screw, ooh, that needs to be on the screwdriver properly. Yep, that's two. And now I'll just put the battery screw in. I am leaving one screw off of the display cover because it's not essential to the function of the device. I am just using it simply to test at the moment. I still have to re-adhesive the new display in. And now, let's just get this battery screw in. Oop, apparently I am unable to do that. Woo, okay, that is in. So now let's just test the new display. Moment of truth. Can you imagine if I did all of this and it just didn't work? That would be hilarious for the stream. There wouldn't be a resolution during the stream, but it would be hilarious for the end. But let's find out. And it turns on. Woo! That's everything. It turns on. It functions. Look at that Apple logo. Just going to point it away because I'm not sure how much customer info is on the lock screen. I'm not sure if it's a default one or not. But the Apple logo shows up, which is everything we need. Yes, it is functional again. I just want it to turn on. Oh, it's open. And yeah, as you can see, it's on. Now the battery does need calibration. It's a brand new battery. Brand new batteries need calibration. But this iPad Air 2 is now functional again. Now let's just see. Now it says unable to complete Touch ID setup. I believe that's because the iPad is not fully together yet. Because when things are still open, Touch ID does not like you. Touch ID, like I said before, is extremely, extremely sensitive. So I'm just going to have to fix that afterwards, I guess. It's not broken because I kept the original home button. It's more of a It's not broken because I kept the original home button. It's more of a situation where things aren't completely finished yet. I haven't like finalized this. That's why the adhesive's not on. I'm just testing it. But the home button was brought across, which means Touch ID will start to work. The display is functioning. The battery is new. So that should be everything. This iPad is now ready. I mean, still got to have final things done to it, but it's ready. So thank you all for watching this stream very much. Thank you for joining me while I fixed an iPad Air 2. I hope you very much enjoyed the stream. And I will see you all either in YouTube Shorts or in next week's stream. Thanks, and see you.